I think we've got to stop using just the term bullying to describe some of these things. I mean, bullying to me has a connotation of kind of kids misbehaving. What we are dealing with in some of these circumstances is simply criminal activity. You know, it is youth criminal activity, it is.
Prime Minister Stephen Harper last April making some very sensible comments on the issue of cyberbullying, bullying, and what we can do about it. There's criminal behavior and then there's bullying. But a new law brought into Nova Scotia that took effect last week, it aims to target cyberbullying, but let me read to you what's in there because this is truly worrying. It says that you have committed offense if you send any electronic communication that is intended or ought reasonably be expected to cause fear, intimidation, humiliation, distress, or other damage or harm to another person's health, emotional well-being, self-esteem, or reputation. That pretty much sums up comment sections on newspaper websites, on my blog, on Twitter, on Facebook. The government of Nova Scotia has essentially banned Twitter in response to the death of Rehtaeh Parsons. Have they gone too far? Well, even the Toronto Red Star thinks so. They have denounced this new law. Chris Schafer joins me now. He's with the Canadian Constitution Foundation, and I think Chris will have some sharp words for it as well. Chris, your initial reaction to what I'm sure the politicians thought was a good thing, that they were trying to accomplish something, but what have they actually done?
Well, I think it goes first without saying that, of course, anytime a teen takes their life, it's saddening, it's tragic, but what I don't like to see is, and legislators always like to be seen to be doing something, and that's partly the problem here, is anytime in a time of crisis, politicians want to respond, and often we see at the foundation laws drafted by politicians in response to incidences with large public outcries, and they're badly drafted laws, often unconstitutional, trample on our rights and freedoms, and this is a disproportionate response to a tragic circumstance.
I'll give you an example of the type of communication I receive. I just looked it up on my phone as you were talking. This is from Twitter. Guy who goes by the name Nougat Christ says, is last week when the CRTC came out with their decision, poor at Brian Lilley, pissed that the free market has spoken and does not want Sun TV, now angry that he's not getting corporate welfare. That's apparently someone that can't read what a CRTC decision actually says or the news stories that accompany it. But I mean, that could demean me, that could humiliate me, that tweet, that could cause harm to my self-esteem. Can I charge him?
Well, we're looking at a piece of legislation in Nova Scotia. It's a little bit, so jurisdictionally we're limited, but you're right. And if we would just use that as an example, does that hurt your feelings? It's a very broadly drafted piece of legislation, and what also concerns me is the due process concerns here. Ex parte judgments can be issued by judges, and what that means is the person that's accusing you of cyberbullying can go to a judge without telling you about it, without notifying, so that you can have counsel there, and get a judgment from a judge that says, yes, the accused cyberbullier can have their electronic communication equipment taken away, so their computer and cell phone, internet cut off. They can have their internet files gone through by authorities to see what they were doing online. Companies like Facebook and their ISP, or internet service provider, can be contacted and have their records checked of what was going on online.
This is before a conviction.
Correct.
So this is this similar to getting a search warrant, though? I mean, all the things you're describing could be done with a warrant if there was an actual prosecution going on. But this is before prosecution and without a warrant?
Correct. And if you don't comply, there's potential of fines under the legislation, jail time, and then not to mention the existence under the legislation in Nova Scotia for civil suits. So you can be sued, and if you're a minor, your parents can even be sued under this legislation for your cyberbullying or alleged cyberbullying.
So my kids are on an online forum of one type or another, make comments that I disagree with, but I don't know about it. You know, we keep our home computer out in the open. The kids aren't off in their bedrooms with it, but they make comments I don't know about. I can be charged because my kids were mean to another kid online.
Correct. Your minor, in this instances, would publish comments on maybe on Facebook or Twitter or on their cell phone via text message. The potential there is for parents to be charged if they have minors that are committing cyberbullying under the legislation in Nova Scotia.
We all agree that the Rehtaeh Parsons case, which this is all in response to, is a tragedy. Amanda
tragedy.
Todd in British Columbia, a tragedy. But when a politician says we need to make sure that this never happens again, and we're speaking about a tragedy, that worries me. And I think they have cast the net so wide here that this seems to trample on all kinds of rights that governments are sworn to uphold.
Yes.
This is worrying beyond belief and in exactly the wrong measure.
Exactly. We have concerns here when I look at the legislation from concerns about freedom of speech, whether that's being trampled on. I have concerns about due process under the law. And also, frankly, we have a criminal code that deals with a whole bunch of issues like harassment, stalking, child pornography. Those are the tools we have already in law that can be used to combat alleged bulliers.
Okay.
Why not use some of those tools already?
And so in a case like Rehtaeh Parsons, where this happened over months, those laws could have been used. If there was enough evidence, if prosecutors felt confident, they could have used those laws and acted. With this new law, the way I read it, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chris,
Sure.
You understand reading the law better than I do, but this doesn't have to be something that's going on for months at a time. This could be, fairly one-off almost.
Yes, the way I read the legislation, albeit briefly before I came on the show today, it reads as somebody who is receiving cyberbullying can go and seek, for example, ex parte judgment against the accused bullier in that instance. So there's no threshold here that I can see, and that judge would have to make the decision whether the alleged cyberbullying that's occurring meets the standard, meets the definition under the provincial legislation.
Alberta's minister says that Alberta's government says that they like what they see in this law, and they're considering adopting or adapting the law to their needs. Do you worry that this will spread across the country to other provinces?
It could, because the problem with this is, and it's truly tragic when any teen commits suicide as a result of bullying, be it cyberbullying or some other form of bullying. Totally and absolutely tragic. But politicians like to be seen to be doing things, and it's very even hard for myself to come on TV and to talk about this and take a position in contrary to the legislation, or at least aspects of it, because then automatically you're branded as someone who has no sympathy for the victims of cyberbullying, and that's absolutely not the case. But at the same time, we have to be very careful when we craft laws that we don't, in trying to do some good in society, take a step too far and trample on the rights and freedoms that we all enjoy as Canadians, such as freedom of speech and due process. If you trample on those, you go too far in trying to actually legislate for the common good in society.
All right, Chris, thanks for coming in today, and thanks for taking that stand. We'll chat again soon.
Thanks, Brian.
All right, drop by the blog, liliespad.ca. It's been quiet while I was away on the Freedom Cruise. We'll get it active again, including my thoughts on this law. Stick around. We've got more to come.